Please like the video and share it so that it reaches many more people and you get sawaba, or rewards from Allah. This could be a sawabe jariyah or continuous reward for you long after you are gone.
Volume 3, Book 34, number 407. Narrated by Ibn Umar. Allah's Apostle forbade al-muzabana, i.e. to sell ungathered dates of one's garden for measured dried dates, or fresh ungathered grapes for measured dried grapes, or standing crops for measured quantity of foodstuff. He forbade all such bargains. Volume 3, Book 34, number 408. Narrated by Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, "Whoever pollinates date palms and then sells them, the fruits will belong to him unless the buyer stipulates that the fruits should belong to him, and the seller agrees." Volume 3, Book 34, number 409. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Allah's Apostle forbade mahakala, mukadara, mulamasa, munabada and muzabana. See glossary and previous hadiths for the meanings of these terms. Volume 3, Book 34, number 410. Narrated by Humayd. Anas said, "The Prophet forbade the selling of dates till they were almost ripe." We asked Anas, "What does almost ripe mean?" He replied, "They get red and yellow." The Prophet added, "If Allah destroyed the fruits present on the trees, what right would the seller have to take the money of his brother, somebody else?" Volume 3, Book 34, number 411. Narrated by Ibn Umar. I was with the Prophet while he was eating spadix. He said, "From the trees there is a tree which resembles a faithful believer." I wanted to say that it was the date palm, but I was the youngest among them, so I kept quiet. He added, "It is the date palm." Shuri told the weavers, "You are permitted to follow your own conventions to solve your problems. It is legal for you to stick to your traditions in bargain." Narrated, Abdul Wahhab. Ayub said, Muhammad said, "There is no harm in selling for 11 what you buy for 10, and you are allowed to take a profit for expenses." The Prophet told Hind, "Take what is reasonable and sufficient for you and your sons." Allah says, "Whoever is poor, can eat, from the orphan's property, reasonably, according to his labors." Al-Hassan hired a donkey from Abdullah bin Murders and asked him about the hire. The latter replied that it was for 2 daniks. A danik equals 116th dirham. So Al-Hassan rode away. Another time, Al-Hassan came to Abdullah bin Murders and asked him to hire the donkey to him and rode away without asking him about the hire, but he sent him half a dirham. Volume 3, Book 34, number 412. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Abu Taiba cupped Allah's Apostle, and Sir Allah's Apostle ordered that a SA of dates be paid to him and ordered his masters, for he was a slave, to reduce his tax. Volume 3, Book 34, number 413. Narrated by Aisha. Hind, the mother of Muawiyah, said to Allah's Apostle, "Abu Sufyan, her husband, is a miser. Am I allowed to take from his money secretly?" The Prophet said to her, "You and your sons may take what is sufficient reasonably and fairly." Volume 3, Book 34, number 414. Narrated by Hisham bin Urwa from his father, who heard Aisha saying, the holy verse, "Whoever amongst the guardians is rich, he should take no wages from the property of the orphans, but if he is poor, let him have for himself what is just and reasonable, according to his labors." 4.6 was revealed concerning the guardian of the orphans who looks after them and manages favorably their financial affairs. If the guardian is poor, he could have from it what is just and reasonable, according to his labors. Volume 3, Book 34, number 415. Narrated by Jabir. Allah's Apostle gave preemption to the partner in every joint property, but if the boundaries of the property were demarcated or the ways and streets were fixed, then there was no preemption. Volume 3, Book 34, number 416. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. Allah's Apostle decided the validity of preemption in every joint undivided property, but if the boundaries were well marked or the ways and streets were fixed, then there was no preemption. Volume 3, Book 34, number 417. Narrated by Musaddad from Abdul Wahid. The same as above, but said, in every joint undivided thing. Narrated Hisham from Ma'mar, the same as above, but said, in every property. Volume 3, Book 34, number 418. Narrated by Ibn Umar. The Prophet said, while 3 persons were walking, rain began to fall and they had to enter a cave in a mountain. A big rock rolled over and blocked the mouth of the cave. They said to each other, invoke Allah with the best deed you have performed, so Allah might remove the rock. One of them said, O Allah, my parents were old and I used to go out for grazing, my animals. On my return I would milk the animals, and take the milk in a vessel to my parents to drink. After they had drunk from it, I would give it to my children, family and wife. One day I was delayed and on my return I found my parents sleeping, and I disliked to wake them up. The children were crying at my feet, because of hunger. That state of affairs continued till it was dawn. O Allah, if you regard that I did it for your sake, then please remove this rock so that we may see the sky. So, the rock was moved a bit. The second said, O Allah, you know that I was in love with a cousin of mine, like the deepest love a man may have for a woman, and she told me that I would not get my desire fulfilled unless I paid her 100 dinars, gold pieces. So, I struggled for it till I gathered the desired amount. And when I sat in between her legs, she told me to be afraid of Allah, and asked me not to deflower her except rightfully, by marriage. So, I got up and left her. O Allah, if you regard that I did it for your sake, kindly remove this rock. So, 2/3 of the rock was removed. Then the third man said, O Allah, no doubt you know that once I employed a worker for 1 faraq, 3 sars, of millet, and when I wanted to pay him, he refused to take it, so I sowed it and from its yield I bought cows and a shepherd. After a time that man came and demanded his money. I said to him, go to those cows and the shepherd and take them for they are for you. He asked me whether I was joking with him. I told him that I was not joking with him, and all that belonged to him. O Allah, if you regard that I did it sincerely for your sake, then please remove the rock. So, the rock was removed completely from the mouth of the cave. Volume 3, Book 34, number 419. Narrated by Abdur Rahman bin Abu Bakr. We were with the Prophet when a tall pagan with long matted unkempt hair came driving his sheep. The Prophet asked him, are those sheep for sale or for gifts? The pagan replied, they are for sale. The Prophet bought 1 sheep from him.